I'm curious about how you met, and if you met through music, if it was, you were already working on a project, how that came about, and also going back further to actually how you came in touch with music. Like, obviously, you have quite a substantial, both of your careers, and you've done many different things, and not only historical instruments, but also modern music. And it's quite a broad range of the musical experience. And like, you not only piano, organ, you're conducting, and like you're doing so many things. Is it just because during your life you found that doing just one thing is not meant for you, or is it just happened naturally in that sense that you started different endeavors in your musical career, or was it that you always had this idea that you wanted to do many different things?
I'll start. Yes, I mean, that's absolutely right. For me, I've been obsessed with music since I can remember. I mean, neither of my parents were musicians. My father loved music. Amateur operatics was his thing. He used to do South Pacific and all the great shows in a strictly amateur way, but he always loved doing music on stage. But he worked at the railways. He was a railwayman. And I remember him performing in South Pacific as Billis. So he's always loved music. And the music they used to listen to at home, which I became obsessed with immediately, it was all records, vinyl, and 78s of the great crooners from the 50s. So I devoured Perry Como and Nat King Cole. That was the music that they had a limited number of it, but I used to look at the records, study the labels, and constantly listening to that kind of music. And I didn't really come into contact with classical music till I started the piano, and I insisted that I started the piano.
Because you were a choir boy at
first, that came later, but when I started at school when I was 5.5, I guess, somebody was playing the piano, because every morning we had an assembly, and there was a lady that we sang a hymn or something at the beginning of the day, and was like, I want to play that. So there was somebody teaching piano in the little village outside the city where we lived, and then I just started playing.
I always wonder where that kind of magic comes from, since you didn't come from a musical family per se, like they didn't play any instruments, but maybe your grandparents did. Like, is it something inherited, or is it something that is just by coincidence? It's always an interesting philosophical question.
I think for me it came from absolutely from within, because I was really from the earliest point. So when I was like 1.5, 2, I would sit on the ground in front of the record player, radio thing, and draw notes. Because I'd seen the notes on the old Columbia label.
Yeah.
I had no idea what that. And my grandfather actually had bought a piano for my father when my dad was like 7 or something. We actually have it in our house. We have it. It's a Challen upright from 1937. Lovely piano. Alex.
I really love it.
Yeah, but my father never played it, and my granddad must have messed around on it a little bit. But no, there's not. It's really interesting. It gets somewhere with me and my other grandparents, and there was no music. So maybe somewhere back in the generations, but it's certainly not. I mean, most of them were fishermen or dike builders.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty regular jobs for that time, so I guess. Yeah.
So, but I mean, Alex's family there was always music in your family, wasn't there?
Yes, yeah. So the way how I did start, it was very natural, because my big sister, who is 2.5 years older than me, she started to play piano when she was 5, which means from my 2.5, I was surrounded by music. And also my father had always had and has still a huge love and admiration for music. And when he was a student, he did a university with a mathematics, and then he kind of had a strong idea that this is not enough for him. He really loved music, and he went to study music, and he went for the choir conducting education, and ended up as a professional choir conductor in the church.
You don't see that often, mathematics and music.
But he has a brilliant brain for the mathematics. but he thought it's boring for him. It's not enough. And the whole life he was really exploring the music. Since I remember, he would always play piano and sing alone.
Well, did you had 3 pianos in your house?
Well, at some point we had 3 cabinet pianos in our flat, which is, so what is it, 65
this is
square
Moscow,
meters?
right?
Yeah, so it's quite a small flat, just a regular, maybe 60, 65 square meters flat. And in each room we had a piano. So we basically had to live and sleep underneath the piano.
You were like a little music school over there in the building.
Indeed, because my big sister, she played piano and that was it. Great. Built.
Was she at the Gnesen as well? Did
She was at the same school. So we all went to the same school, with the Gnesen Special Music School. Starting with her, and then I went there, and my brother tried, but didn't succeed so much because he was difficult for him to be surrounded by the girls. And
You have one sister and one brother?
I have 2 sisters.
2 sisters.
And
yes.
1 brother,
Yeah.
yes.
Big family, yeah.
Yes, and the special thing that we all went through one teacher in the school. So basically I was one teacher from 5 till 18, with one piano teacher.
Well, I had a similar experience with Mila Wasowska. So like she was actually the only teacher I had, apart from the master classes that occasionally happen. But I can relate to this experience. I think I don't know if I may say so, but the Russian like culture and music, and usually it's more like you become like a family setting. Like the teacher becomes kind of a third parent in a sense, and this is quite amazing to see. And I mean, maybe because I haven't seen the other cultures or I didn't have another experience. Maybe it's similar in other cultures.
I think it's also related how the school, the structure of the schools, of the special music schools, because we don't have it here, for example, in Holland. And then in Moscow, you can go. I went when I was 5 to this school, the press school. And then when you're around 7, you play the entrance exam, and then you're there. And unless you decide that you don't want to do it anymore, and then you switch the school, because otherwise you get all the subject there. So.
And afterwards, you went to the State Conservatory? Yes. And how was this experience?
Well, it's a tricky one, because the school, as much as I loved being there in the Gnesen Music School, it was a difficult experience. And I think in a way, when I went to study harpsichord, which was already in the end of my school years, I kind of had a little escape from being so much pressed by the system at school. Yeah, so then I went to study harpsichord, and I still did, of course, piano. So I finished the school as a pianist and a harpsichordist already. But it was really clear for me that I really would like to go that road towards the historical performance, because there I could feel much more freedom, which I never experienced before.
From what age was that you knew that
I started to play harpsichord when I was 17, so it was quite late. Yeah.
Interesting.
So I actually, lots of music, most of the music I never heard before. And there was really lots of new things came immediately to me. And that was a great experience. And then to the conservatory, I already went to the historical and modern.
Yeah.